It was really challenging to find differences between the houses in Hogwarts Legacy, but it was totally worth it. There is in fact a part of game, a main story quest, which significantly differs from house to house, and for most houses it looks really cool. I'm gonna tell you about every house's unique quest. I ranked the stories from the least to the most impressive, so let's begin. For every house we receive the task for the unique quest after completing our first potion class with Professor Sharp. I'm starting with the Ravenclaw house. The quest here is called Ollivander's Heirloom. We receive an invitation to visit the wand maker in his shop. Ollivander explains that Professor Fig recommended us as a very trustful and resourceful person. That is why Ollivander believes that we can be good for a detective job. Ollivander tells us a story about a wand that had been stolen from his family's shop about a century ago, but he still hasn't lost hope to find it. The wand does not have any special features nor grant superpowers of any kind to the wielder, but still for some unclear reason the master necessarily wants it back to the Ollivander's family. And frankly, he provides a rather lame explanation on why he actually hadn't found the wand himself during all these years. It's something about the headmaster who does not approve of wand makers wandering in the castle. Well, anyway, back 100 years ago the Ollivanders suspected Richard Jackdaw, an assistant to the shop, to have stolen the wand. So Ollivander asks us to find the wand, and he suggests that we start looking in the owlery. He points out that there are statues of jackdaws there that might bring us to the thief. And yeah, he also eventually mentions that before Jackdaw disappeared, he had stolen from Peeves pages with a sort of a map. From Ollivander's shop we head to the Owlery. There we'll have to solve a pretty generic puzzle with the statues and meet the ghost of the thief, Mr. Jackdaw. This character is common for everybody, but you get to see his life story from 4 different points of view, playing for different houses. The Ravenclaw's version is the shortest and the least captivating. The ghost admits that he in fact stole the wand and went to the cave hunting for a treasure from the map. But after all, in that cave he lost both his life and the Ollivander's wand. So no luck for Master here. The Jackdaw also assures that we could still find the ripped pages with the map on his skeleton in the cave. And that's basically the end of the unique quest line for Ravenclaw. We don't even consider reporting back to Mr. Ollivander, which is very strange. And the quest doesn't show any connection to the house history or any famous Ravenclaws. It gives me an overall impression that the Ravenclaw line hasn't been properly prepared at all, or what I think is even more likely, it was cut out from the plot for a certain reason by the developers. After you see other houses' lines, you will know that the Ravenclaw has the emptiest and the least authentic version, frankly. And moving on, I've had some hard time trying to decide which house deserves the 3rd position and which goes to the 2nd, and after all, I have put 2 houses on the equal positions to tie for this quest. First I'm telling about Gryffindor, and later I will explain why. The Gryffindor's quest is called The Hunt for the Missing Pages. It's a really cool sketch that totally corresponds to the house's spirit. The quest starts when we get a note from a Gryffindor girl, an invitation to meet a nearly headless Nick in the Great Hall. So Nicholas gets straight to the point. He knows about the book we have found and might know the whereabouts of the missing pages. All he asks in exchange for help is that we bring him a little rotten roast beef from the kitchen. He literally needs a hand, because his ghostly form cannot carry food or any other material objects. By the way, the quest brings us directly to the Hufflepuff common room entrance, but as we know it's not visible to a student from another house. After tickling a specific pair in a specific picture, we open the doorway to the kitchen. The kitchen location looks awesome, very detailed, very authentic, with the busy house elves, with the 4 giant house tables with all the food. We return with the beef to Nick and travel further to Sir Patrick Delaney Powdmore. As you may already have guessed, Sir Nicholas is trying to be acknowledged on the Headless Hunt activities. And Richard Jackdaw is actually one of the Headless Club members. And this is how Nick got to know about the map on the missing pages. The quest leads us to a cemetery where we witness a bunch of headless pokes and pranks. Nick is not allowed to the party. We, on the other hand, are allowed to search and speak to the Richard's head. Actually looking for his hat is the puzzle of the quest for Gryffindor. And again, it's very well in the line with the Gryffindor spirit, the fun element. We just randomly run and crush the pumpkins to win the game against the ghost and speak to Richard. We have a little chat with the ghost and get to know about the skeleton in the cave, which is basically the purpose of the whole quest line. I love the way the developers lead here. It's discreet, it finally has to do with the house we're in, and it just makes sense altogether. Plus it is connected to the original lore. Of course, we hoped every house in Hogwarts Legacy to have a unique story. In fact, the difference is that we have other common rooms that you hardly ever visit. I admit the common rooms are detailed and thoughtfully crafted, but still they are plain cosmetics, unfortunately. Plus, we have some remarks of the NPCs that are different when they casually refer to some house's traits to no purpose and no consequences. Anyway, proceeding to the next house unique quest, and here comes Slytherin. The Slytherin line does have a connection to the Slytherin's features, and it gives us some additional juicy details about our headmaster's family. Slytherin's quest is called Scrub's Last Hope. We get a mail from Scrub, who suggests that we meet and tells us about the book we have found. We follow the leads to unravel 3 notes with further instructions on the place of encounter. Finally, we meet Scrub, the house elf of noble and most ancient House of Black. Scrub tells a story about his late mistress Apollonia Black. Scrub believes that Apollonia was hiding some valuable things, including our missing pages and the Black family ring in the grotto, where she forbade Scrub to enter. Scrub asks us to bring him the ring so that he can give it to the Phineas Black and surprise the severe headmaster. If you ask the elf what's wrong with his ear, he tells us a creepy but very lore-corresponding story. The Blacks have a tradition to decapitate their house elves after they no longer need their service. But the Honorable Lady Apollonia was so sweet to only cut off the elf's ear and let him be. On our way to the grotto, we meet a couple of dogbugs, so be ready to fight. After completing the quest task in the grotto, we meet the Jackdaw Ghost. The ghost tells us that the Black's ring was sold long time ago, and this means that neither of the quest givers actually gets what he wanted. In the dialogues with Jackdaw, you can find out a very important detail. Richard was passionate for Apollonia and tried to impress her by all means. He actually followed the map of the ripped pages to find a marvelous treasure in a desperate attempt to gain her attention. The end of the story is already familiar to you. But the Slytherin version gives us additional details that feed back from the quest giver actually. We come back to Scrub to disappoint him about the ring. Another cute detail, the elf seems pleased to have helped a Slytherin student, and this also contributes to the unique atmospheric Slytherin version. Ready to move on to the winner. I must say I was really impressed by the Hufflepuff line. To be honest, never expected Hufflepuff to top all my charts. The Hufflepuff line actually takes us to Azkaban, a location which is not available to discover for any other house. But not only this, it unfolds a whole love story. It's even called Prisoner of Love. Furthermore, it reveals some information about the house history. For all those reasons, Hufflepuff is my favorite for the unique house quest line. Let's see how this goes. After the potions class, we get a note from a fellow Hufflepuff who invites us to speak to one of the portraits in our common room. There is a rare occasion, by the way, where the game actually sends us to the common room to a decent reason, so that's another point for Hufflepuff. In the common room, we have a conversation with the portrait of Eldridge Diggory, former Minister for Magic and the author of the Auror recruitment program. Mr. Diggory asks us to help his grand-niece Helen Thistlewood investigate a murder. The portrait thinks the missing pages we're looking for could help in solving the murder. So we travel to Helen's house. She appears to be an ex-Auror. Helen tells us a grim story about a Hogwarts student named, guess what? Richard Jackdaw, who had mysteriously disappeared many years ago. Sometime later, his ghost was seen in Hogsmeade, never properly explaining how Richard died. Due to certain circumstances, a young girl, Anne, was accused of killing Jackdaw and was sentenced to a life term in Azkaban. Anne is still alive, and Madame Thistlewood thinks that she could still provide us with clues or some evidence to where we can find the ripped pages, because last time Anne spoke to Jackdaw, he had insisted on following the map together. After we agree to help, Madame Thistlewood just separates us both to Azkaban. We watch her dramatically cast Patronus to repel Dementors. Our wand is not available in Azkaban, so we merely watch the scene. In the end of the long dark corridor, we hear Anne's voice. And does give us a hint on where to look for the Richard's cave, and she attacks our companion. Then we quickly apparate. We fight a couple of dark mongrels and enter the cave. Here the lime seemingly becomes the same as for the other houses, but in fact there is a special bounty. The Hufflepuff line unfolds a dramatic love and betrayal story, which was slightly touched in the Scrub Slytherin line. This is why I chose to put Slytherin closer to Hufflepuff. Those two houses have a certain connection in this part of the main story. And by the way, if you want to know which common room is the best in Hogwarts Legacy, check out my video. The link is on your screen. Thank you for your attention. See you at Hogwarts. Knox.